Hi. I want to talk today about the third choice. So I'm going to tell you a story, and then I'm going to tell you what this third choice is. And it is really the secret to getting the things that you want. I know a lot of people out there feel like they never get what they want. I know I felt like that most of my life. Like, you have these choices and both are shitty choices. It's kind of like elections. You're like, oh, lesser of two evils. So I'm going to tell you a story. It's a vulnerable story. And some of you may have heard part of this story if you've been following me for a long time. And for others, this will be new. So when I was little, I was 4 years old, and my best friend was a junkie who lived up the street. And my mom wasn't paying a lot of attention in those days, so I got to kind of roam free, which was in some ways really great. I got to exercise my independence and be free and experience me making my own choices. And then, in other cases, it put me in dangerous situations. But anyway, so my best friend was a junkie who lived up the street, and we used to have the best time. We would sing songs, and he would play the guitar, and kind of similar to my grandpa in that way. And I felt this true connection of love and joy with him. And so one day I went up to his house, and he was going through what I now can see was heroin withdrawal. And he was really sick and really upset. And I was terrified. I was so scared because I didn't know what was going to happen. And he told me to go home, but I wanted to help. Well, as a little kid, I always wanted to help. I think most little kids are like that. And I wanted to do something to help him. He's like, no, Janaea, just go home. I feel like I'm gonna die. I really want something sweet. And my little brain heard, he's gonna die unless he gets something sweet. And so I ran home to get sugar because I knew that we had sugar. So I ran home and I jumped up on the counter and I'm in the cabinets looking for the sugar. And my mom comes in, she's like, what are you doing? And she was very strict when I was in her view. She didn't not acknowledge me when I was out of her view, but if she could see me, she was very strict. And so I was hysterical, and I was trying to explain to her that Carl was going to die unless he got something sweet, unless I brought him sugar. And she misunderstood me and thought that first of all, she thought that he was a little boy I played with up the street. She didn't realize that he was actually a full-grown person. And she sat me down and she said, that little boy is manipulating you. He is not going to kill himself, because she thought that I said he was going to kill himself unless I brought him some sugar or some food. And she told me, you will not bring him any food. And so here I am, 4 years old, with this massive choice. My best friend is going to die unless I bring him sugar, or my mom's going to come after me and do some terrible things as she had done in the past. And so here I am with these two choices, neither of them very good. And I chose in that moment, I chose myself. I did the selfish thing where it's like, okay, I'm going to choose my own safety over his. And so anyway, long story short, I stayed home. I didn't bring him any sugar. A couple days later, I woke up in the middle of the night and I knew something was wrong. And I ran out of the house, ran by my mom, and her friends were partying in the living room. And I ran out of the house, ran up to Carl's house, and I held his hand while he died of an overdose. And so the reason I'm telling you this story is because what that locked in my mind was that it's all my fault. I thought that because I didn't bring him any sugar, that it was all my fault. When you're so young, you think the world revolves around you and your choices. You don't really have that broader perspective that you can have when you're older. And so I spent my life really trying to make sure that I took care of everybody so that they wouldn't die, so that they wouldn't leave me. It set up a big piece of my abandonment stuff. And sorry, loud motorcycles driving through the park. So anyway, but here's the thing. Let's go back to that choice. I had the two choices. So I could choose to take the sugar to him, or I could choose to not. And both of those choices were driven by fear. Fear of losing him and fear of getting hurt or getting in trouble. And so what I couldn't do, because I was in such a state of fear and a state of contracting emotion, is I couldn't access anything else. And so here's the thing to understand, is that no matter what the situation is, there's always a third choice. But if you're in a state of fear or contractive emotional state, you can't actually access the third choice. So what would have been the third choice? The third choice would have been, how do I get out of fear and how do I act from a place of love? How do I act from not trying to save him and make him happy, not trying to make my mom happy, but how do I make myself happy and do what is in my heart and act from a place of love? So if I had been able to process those overwhelming emotions at that age, I would have been able to come to this new conclusion, the third choice. And that third choice, like I can see it now because I'm not stuck in that state of fear. That third choice would have been that I would have gone behind my mom's back. I would have brought the sugar, but I would have brought it just out of love, not out of fear. So had I gone there and been in this state of chaos and fear, and he didn't want me to see him like that. That's why he told me to go home. So I could just imagine this little kid that you love, that you spend time with, like coming, trying to save you with this thing of sugar, and he's already feeling horrible. How much worse he might have felt having to be faced with that. Yet if I came from this place of love, not fear, and just been okay with him being in that terrible, emotional, sick place and not been scared of it, if I just brought it, then it could have opened up something different. Now, would it have saved him? No, but if I had, maybe actually, if I had gone in the state of fear, it probably would have made him feel worse. He would have been not feeling great for me seeing him in that place, because he would have seen how upset I was. But had I gone from this place of peace and love, that might have been just a little kernel of some hope that maybe he wouldn't have gone out and gotten more drugs and OD'd a couple days later. So the moral of this story, accessing that third choice, for me, if I had been able to access that third choice and move from that place, I would have known that it's not all my fault that he died. And obviously we know that it wasn't my fault. But at the time, I would have understood that it's not my fault. I would have done what was in my true nature, which is peace and love and joy. And I would have had no regrets. Yes, I still might have gotten in trouble, but my soul would have been at peace. And so often when we're in a state of fear, whatever it is, if you're choosing between a job, like maybe you want to start a business, maybe you are considering going back to work, if you're in a state of fear and you're making that choice from that state of fear, you're just going to end up creating more fear. And that's going to keep you perpetuating making these choices to prevent something. So I was trying to prevent Carl's death. I was trying to prevent my mom from beating me up. But if I had made that third choice, there was no prevention there. It would have just been an act of love, an act of joy, an act of something from my true spirit, from my true self. And could it have prevented his death? Maybe. Slight little chance. But my spirit would have been at peace. And I wouldn't have been playing this thing like, did I make the wrong choice? Did I screw it up? Did I do it all wrong? I wouldn't have been playing that story in my head for decades. And of course I had things reinforce that, but it doesn't matter. I kept recreating that story over and over and over again. And so I ask you to consider, as you look at your own life, where were you choosing between two fear choices, and what potentially would have been available to you if you could have gotten out of that state of fear and been able to access the third choice. I think I just got stung by a bee or something. Yay! It's making me feel alive. But anyway, so think about that. Think about where in your life have you struggled with a choice, if you've been struggling with indecision, and is it two choices that are about preventing something, two choices that are being made from a state of fear. And if you were going to operate from your true self, that part of you that's full of peace, love, and the truth of the soul of who you are, what would that person do? And a lot of times we can't, it's hard to access that. So think back. This is something I do with my clients. Like, think back to a time when you were really little, before anything really bad happened, and see if you can step back into a memory of being 2, 3 years old, where you were just full of light and love and joy, and see if you can access what it feels like to be you, the essence of you, because you came into the world with the essence of you. And then over the years, you modified and molded to try to stay safe, to try to make sure that you were loved and accepted and belonged and all of those things. And maybe you didn't have as dramatic of stories of the big choices of fear as I did when I was little, but it doesn't mean that your choices weren't as scary for you, that they weren't as hard to make for you when you were young, and then you kept having to recreate and be stuck in this place of two choices, and both are neither the things that you want, because what you want is always going to lie in that third choice. And if you're in that state of contractive emotion, prevention, or feeling scared of what might happen, you can't access that third choice. And that third choice is the pathway to actually getting the things that you want in your life. All right, I hope you guys found this useful. Leave me a comment. Tell me what hit home for you or what didn't hit home for you. I want to hear from you guys. I'll see you later. Bye.